So we are on track to work with Sarah on March 16th. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Yes.
Okay, so just a little bit of an update. Chris and I talked a little bit about this. Staff did, as at the request of Sarah M. House, following the meeting with Sarah and Chris and staff. We're starting to break out the implementation plan and responsibilities of HTC, responsibilities of staff, and Mayor and Common Council responsibilities. Trying to get a good breakdown of which ones need Mayor and Common Council review and approval, which ones do not, and things that HTC has moved forward with as part of that just regular programming. So that's hopefully, I think we're going to get more in detail at the next meeting, trying to break that out to give guidance for the HTC for projects to move forward with.
And so just to be clear, the hope is that after that meeting, then we'll have clear direction on how we can meet with the mayor and city council to discuss implementation.
I'm not sure we'll come up with a prioritized list, but we will at least have broken down some of the tasks, and we'll be able to start making those priorities between us and the city for a forward plan.
I certainly think Chris, Chair McMaster's can request, maybe an update as potentially Mayor and Common Council for the implementation plan.
See, it won't have to single thread. There will be some tasks that can move ahead, and that's what we need to sort. Like, what is the projected timetable for each task? What can we do now? What do we need city assistance with, and what do we need to put on the calendar?
Sounds good.
Okay. Am I going to be working with the new comprehensive planner on this?
Unfortunately, no. Leanne is lucky for her response from BZA. So Melissa is HTC, Leanne's BZA, and Andrea Planning Commission. She's more than welcome to help. We're not limited to this one person. We all, as you can imagine, with a staff of 4 people, get to do everything.
Absolutely. All right, item B, recap on National History Day. So Josh and I and Grace were all at National History Day. I sent some pictures to Melissa. I don't know if she was able to use them in any way, but we did have the city emblem out on the table. We did have lots of brochures for people to pick up. I don't think as a city team there were any judges other than me. I judged documentaries, and boy, those kids are really good. So it was considered a very big success. We had more people come and attend that event than I've ever seen at National History Day. The kids were all fired up, and hopefully some of them survive to go on to the state level competition and the national level. This was really our local opportunity to see the kids doing history, and that was great. That was a lot of fun. And the only reason why we're asked into judging for National History Day is because we're part of Celebrating America, which is the county's sort of consortium of historic places. And they're really the pushers of us hosting National History Day here in Carroll County. So it was a great event. I really look forward to sort of simulating that same public outreach at the Spring Flower and Jazz Festival. And we should all be putting that on our calendar, because again, I want some people to keep me company. We're handing out flyers. I will say the most popular flyer was the walking tour that Melissa threw together in 15 seconds.
There was multiple requests even in the brief hour that I was there for when is this next being offered and who's going to be leading it. A lot of interest.
All right. Oh,
Can I just jump in real quick? As we go about this next round of outreach, I know we've had a discussion as a commission about what to do with that budget that we've had, and we talked about doing some sort of contests or whatever. And I think the sooner that we can get some clarity on that, I think that would be really helpful for events like this to say, hey, this time next year, you should submit something that's eligible for this contest, or here's an application for this $500 grant, or whatever the case is. So
I might have gone out on a plane and sort of half promised a cash prize for next year's National History Day. We just need to budget it. And I think in August, when they come and ask us if we can be able to say, yep, we got a cash prize,
Well, my understanding is that we've had it budgeted, we just haven't designated it
For this
internally
event.
and talked about it, so I think we just need to maybe post your conversation with Sarah.
We can just, no, that's,
Say it.
that's an
Do
easy
it.
do. I don't know, Mark, have we missed the budget process yet?
So it's happening now. I asked for a little bit more money. Once I haven't had a meeting with Sarah yet, want to get a better understanding, but I would assume the typical $1,500 will be there. And again, it falls to the HCP, how they want to spend that money. So once it's budgeted, well, you know, how you want to spend it is up to you.
So 1,500 is the norm for our whole
It
year.
used to be a little bit more when we actually had, I guess, the tours and some other things, but and I think we also provided some Flower and Jazz Festival things as well. I think Parks and Rec have actually picked up. So but yeah, 15 for the last 3-4 years, I think 1,500 has been the norm.
And so we have money in the bank right now,
Yes, we got money now that can be used.
because we might really, and I assume that we have a fiscal year rollover in June.
Yes.
So we might really want to think about for Flower and Jazz, which I would argue is one of, if not the best, events here in Westminster, if we want to do anything for that in terms of handouts or.
Well, we could really, those brochures that we have are just coming off of a printer. I mean, if we wanted to get them nicely printed, that's gonna cost us a little money, but I think we could get that squeezed out before.
We actually had that discussion, if we can take with let's go work on and see if we get some actually printed out.
We also got a lot of positive feedback on the bottles, and I don't know if that's something that there's more in the.
Melissa gave me those.
We have plenty of bottles, we can provide some bottles from Flower and Jazz.
Give them away like candy.
Yeah, people love that. People love that. I probably should have had one for each kid, but that would have been a truckload. Got it. Well, so make a motion that we ask city staff to use some of this year's money on improved brochure printing.
Or do we need to make a motion for that? It's kind of out of our description.
I think I prefer if it was a motion.
Sure, I'm happy to, I am happy to motion that we spend money at Flower and Jazz through brochure printing and
Oh, and also business cards.
business cards.
Yeah, we need
Sure.
little business cards.
And do city staff want to use some of this money for bottles, or are you sitting on a
We are sitting on some bill.
All right, so we're not gonna ask for money for the bottles because that's gonna be supplied otherwise, but for now, we're asking for brochures and business cards, and we'll discuss at our next meeting. Anything else? Do we have a next meeting before Flower and Jazz?
We should.
Cool. All right, so for now, just those two things.
There's a second.
Second.
Any
Don't let
further-
it be printed.
All in favor, aye.
I
Great.
Piggyback on your thought. If we have money, let's make a thing that we can advertise at Flower and Jazz for upcoming for kids to think about the National Day and already have what their prizes will be, and that would, we get so many people going up and down the street. It's better than putting out a public announcement.
agree.
So, we talked about offering a prize of $500, but there is a junior and a senior category. So that'd be $1,000 out of $1,500 for the year. Just tossing that out
Can we
there.
make a final decision at our next meeting?
Yes. Yeah, I think so, but it would be a simple flyer we would have available to hand to people, right? You're not thinking about anything more dramatic. All right, next meeting. Okay. And anything else on National History Day? Very successful, I thought. All right, the National 250th Anniversary. I've asked for this to be a continuing topic for our attenuation. Just to keep us thinking about 250th anniversary coming up. Looking for better ideas, more legacy type of projects. I brought this tonight just to get us thinking. This is the American Association for State and Local History. Making History at 250. And basically, this is put out for the field guide for Somerset Centennial for the nation. So there's a national organization that's supposed to be spearheading our 250th commemorations. But they're spearheading with ideas only. Okay, they don't have really money. There's no place like there used to be for the bicentennial where you can go and ask for cash for a bridge or cash for a park or cash for, a building of some sort. They're really saying it's a grassroots effort, and if we want to do something, it needs to be a grassroots thing. It's just super clear. The state's taking the same stance. So what this does is this is giving us some themes to think about for the vision of the semi-quincentennial. Say that 3 times really fast. Okay. Among the themes they're suggesting we could use, and this is for all parts of the nation, including Guam and the Virgin Islands, there would be topics of unfinished revolutions, and that could talk about anything from civil rights to tribal rights to I'm going to have members for your community advocated for liberty and equality. How have those been how have those with power responded? So that could be considered part of the national celebration of the 250th. The power of place, which is something we really have. We have a place that was here during the Revolutionary War. We the people, and how does we the people affect the 250th? It's a kind of a patriotic the American experiment, and again, another theme of the 250th that we could do. And one example is how revolutionary was the American Revolution? What kind of nation did it create? And how do we show that in our local community? And then lastly, doing history. And this is more of a process topic in that sometimes just the act of doing history, like an archaeological dig, is very interesting to people, and they may just want to know how history happens. So, for example, as part of our celebrating of the 250th, we might want to put out some sort of manual about how you can save and preserve your own house, where you find resources to learn more about your own house. I see that in our wheelhouse as far as what we can do for architectural history. The other thing that we've talked about as an implementing plan, and I think it hits the 250th, is doing an inventory of what historic resources we have left throughout the city. And we made that as part of our suggestions to the city, and that would be a perfect 250th type of activity. So I'm going to just hand this out, but I only have one.
At the risk of showcasing, I don't know if it's worse math skills or worse history skills, what's our timeline on this?
250th is not far, it's 2026.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
I mean, if you're going to do something big, like a park or a bridge to somewhere, or centennial building, it's not far away. You only have 3 years to pull it off. I mean, I'm expecting somebody in the city's going to want to do a parade. Like, that's what we do really well. Big parade on the 4th of July for the 250th, of course. But that's not a lasting legacy. So let's think big, commission, and maybe we can spur someone in the community to take that on. All right, any questions about the 250th?
We should say that if we decide we want to get serious about it, it'd be good to have its own meeting, just like we did about the list of proposed, code and everything. It'd be good to have,
workshop.
yeah, it'd be good to have a workshop or thing.
I love it. Sound good. All right. We're ready to move on to new business. Item A. Review of architecture for 30 Webster Street. Melissa, would you like to preface this project?
Yep. And I'm going to bring up another PowerPoint. Think about how I'm gonna do that.
A PowerPoint, I don't know if we've ever had a PowerPoint in here, it's like.
A screen share.
Getting
Probably
fancy up
for
in
the
here.
folks,
What's up?
for the folks at home. This one, let's change. Well, I'm trying to be fancy, Josh, but sometimes technology
Yeah.
trips down. Okay. Over here. Big, all right. So item A, we're talking about a project at 30 Webster Street. And this is not in the downtown zone, but it is in the historic district. And a lot of times we talk about downtown, but we're in the historic district still. The city received a submittal for plans of an addition to an existing two-story home here. And we've gone through lots of different updated drawings. The project actually started last August, but the most recent drawings were provided in December and January. So we've got an existing house with the two-story addition in the rear. The two-story addition is 2,177 square feet to include a new stair, kitchen, pantry, bedrooms, bathrooms, garage. The house frontage and siding, as you can see, is cream, and they have red shutters. This proposed addition is to be matching the look of the house as it is today, with the same materials and the same roofing, asphalt shingle. So it's a big project, but it's pretty much straightforward. As far as the design, there's no proposal to change the front of the house, and that's pretty much what you see from the road. So here's the location, if you look at the screen, where it is. You can see that's Manchester Avenue and East Main Street below the Star. Just a quick glance at what they're doing is pretty neat. You know, you can see it. The back section is a little larger maybe than the house itself, the proposed addition. And this is the look. Let me move our little. So you can see the front of the house and this line to show you where the addition is. And we've got, we didn't get color renderings for this. So we're just looking at basic, you can imagine from the pictures. So this is the right, this is the left. They're adding some windows. And the roof line matches the same. This is the rear elevation. And to show you, the look of the side of the house here. And the other side. I think that's the end of my PowerPoint. So just asking, if you have any thoughts on the review of this, the elevations, we'd love to hear that.
So do we have any commissioners who'd like to make a comment?
I'm surprised that, and I just, I guess, are one of you representing the project? Oh, so no one's here.
No one's here, no.
Okay, well, I will say this then, in absence of that, is there any yard gonna be left? It looks like it's like the whole lot is gonna be, I mean, a 2,000 square foot addition is. It's substantial, like, it's getting bigger than my house, there's.
So I know that they meet the setbacks.
Okay,
I can say that. I think it's about 8 feet
yeah,
to the smallest extent. Because Andrea had that.
And you can't, as part of the requirements of the zoning district, you can't cover more than 40% of the property. And they are not at the 40% mark.
okay,
It needs setback, so there is still it's a rather deep lot. So you can imagine that they still have about the same distance of the length of the house and the rear yard as well.
Are they gonna demo the garage?
They would have to.
All right, and then the back wall, I can't tell by these plans if the back wall is gonna be lost, like sheared off. Or are they gonna just work around that back wall using the existing doors and preserve the structure itself?
So the back wall will be gone if you look at the interior plans.
The wall is actually, the back wall would stay.
Because of the foundation.
Maybe just I'm not sure if there's already a door to the back wall that is.
I mean, I'm assuming there's a back access.
Yeah,
All right, so
It kind of, it doesn't extend directly behind, you know, it does shift a little bit to the side there, so you still have, you have some level of relief, whatever, in that facade, so it's not a straight flat look.
So Mark, we have demo recommendations for recordation. And I really think they should do some recordation of the garage as an outbuilding and of that back wall. But I think it should be clarified that, you know, the back wall should be incorporated as much as possible. I mean, I think that's just a structurally good idea, but that's none of my business, you know. But at least to record it before it's removed. Those are my only two concerns and comments, is that record the garage and record the back wall if it's, you know, record the back wall, whether it's gonna be demoed or not, because you're not gonna see it again. So it should be recorded, and it should be recorded according to our standards. Kevin, do you have any questions?
My only comment was roof is standing seam. And I think on her presentation, you said that roof on the back was shingle. I have no pictures about that. So to me, I would recommend a standing seam roof.
So the front is not
The front is still
asphalt,
see,
but the side, you can, it's hard to see from the pictures on the, it's, I'm gonna stand up. Here is the shingle and here are the shingles. There's a little bit there. So that's the part that matches.
Is the back roof fall remaining standing seam? Or are they gonna remove it and put asphalt in?
good question. I don't think they'd be removing it to get that second story to extend out. Go to the side elevation.
Confused between this computer and this.
It will be shingled by that picture, but as you look at the left side, you see the standing seam roof. So to me, architecturally, they should continue it to be standing seam. Above the porch, that was done later on without any approval, because I think if there was any approval, we would talk about standing seam.
I would love to give this project a gold star, however. I think the fenestration is great, the window, the placement, the mass, the size, the matching of the siding. There's all a lot of positives to go with this structure. And so the recommendation of doing standing seam across the back, I think would be the icing on the top to really make this a great example of how to rehab a structure. Do you agree?
I will refrain from any commentary on the aesthetics of the project. My only comment, I think this is an interesting case for us in so much that we've been having a lot of discussion about the front of the building. Clearly, this doesn't really have major impact. And we've had a similar discussion on what do we need to be weighing as a commission on the rear.
Mhm.
I think there's a whole nother set of considerations about this that I'm not even sure that we're empowered to comment on. If I was a neighbor and something this big was built next to me on a small lot, I'd have some questions. But again, not sure that's our purview.
So you gotta go to the zoning for that.
Yep.
Go to zoning for that. But I think I'd be more concerned if there was public access on either side. But because there's private homes stacked on both sides, you really can't see the siding on an everyday basis anyway.
And Melissa, just to be clear, they're not asking for tax credits or anything else at this point. This is pure demo approval, correct?
Correct, because, well, they've been given, I will share, they've been given that, so, yeah.
More of a review on it.
More, yeah, advisory again. All right, great. Well, you'll work, write that out.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, next, review of demo at architecture for 285, 287 East Green. And Melissa, will you please talk about that project?
Sure, thank you. And to point out, we have two gentlemen here representing this project tonight. I'm going to text this and go into the second. I find it easier to show the audience what's going on, but you all have, basically the same thing in front of you in your packets. All right, so here we have. Okay. So our city staff met with Carroll County Bureau of Development Review, Ratcliffe Architects, and building owner ZFT Capital LLC for a pre-submittal conference in January. We were reviewing the same plans you see tonight. So it's a proposed demolition as well as facade renovation concept plans. And the project located at 285 to 287 East Green Street. It's a 1.25 acre lot consisting of two separate buildings that are one story. The view here is from East Green Street, looking at it from Maggie's parking lot. There's a star in the middle of the property. You can see a large front building and the back building, which is the larger building. Here is a visual of the site, and in red is the proposed demolition portions. So the first being a wood-sided, it's 8,000 square foot building located. That address is 285 East Green, and then the second is the masonry block, a portion of the larger back of the building, which is only 625 square feet. The larger portion is the 22,260 square foot building. And other than listed in this historic district, I didn't find any information on it being on the register, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something else. So could be enlightened to. I see Chris with a book she's holding.
Always have to carry at least one book.
That's good, that's good. So the proposed concept for the renovations on the facade have taken the following into consideration: the height and scale to match the surroundings, having the corner as a focal point and being the building anchor, using fresh building materials and including branding and character. The concept will show a brick veneer. I guess I can scoot into this here. Here we go. So on the right side of the screen is just the inspiration. It's not the look of the building as that is, to the left is the concept. So the building signage is to be painted right onto the brick above the main entrance in a historic typology like that of the Singer machines and others, the history class. Those buildings are in, or that one building is in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the Singer sewing machine. The main entrance has a proposed roof line adjustment from a gabled roof to a stepped gable design. The front door is proposed to be adjusted from the left side of the entrance to be centered with two black metal frame windows on either side. And all three of these entrance elements will have a black metal awning over them, as well as the two windows facing Washington Road. And we'll go through the visuals there. And here's the proposed colors, the brick veneer, and the existing build. So this is the Washington Road side, and this is a view of the very first building on East Green Street that's wood-sided, and I tried to get it in so you could see the side of the building as well. And here's, as you're coming up to the block building, the view from East Green, Here's the Washington Street view. It's pretty big. It goes all the way down to this South Street or South Alley, South Street Alley. So once again, we're going back to let you know about this project that has come into, an application, and would like to get your feedback on this demolition and architecture.
Real quick, and they are interested in potential tax credits for the site improvement program. This is very early in the process, so we want to get it in front of you as quick as we can. To help the process move forward.
So I'll just throw out some additional historical information. I would agree with Melissa's finding that in our usual building of Westminster books, this property is not noted. But if you look at Westminster the way it was, this building is actually noted. And I just thought I'd share it with you because I find it kind of fun. I don't know, did you know this was the Westminster Shoe Company? Built in 1925, so it did not quite make it to 100 years old. That little corner building that's targeted for demo is actually highlighted. And what I really love to read here, just because I'm a history nerd, is that for the opening, there was a parade in the afternoon and a banquet at the fire hall in the evening. So this here shoe factory was really very important and a whole lot of fun. And it kind of appears to me that of the original buildings, that littlest building in the front is a 1925 building. It appears to me that the wooden buildings that are also slated for demo are not included as part of the original shoe structure. So, does anyone else want to look just because it's fun to wallow?
I want to borrow that book.
Does anyone have any questions?
Are you able to share what your long-term vision for the property is?
The current tenant's pretty happy there right now, so they're probably staying. The current owners, who we represent also are the people that bought Maggie's across the street. So, it's really just a desire to improve the aesthetics of the neighborhood. So,
Because I've heard all kinds of rumors that, what they're thinking of putting in that building someday. It's all
there's a lot of conversation that's been talked about, and most of it is at the bar at Maggie's, but, yeah, I mean, it's open, once the existing tenants are no longer there, it's up for, it could be anything.
And certainly my personal opinion would be that the proposed demo would improve the aesthetic, so I'm in favor of that. I guess my question though is, once you do this, what happens to that blank space? Does it become parking lot?
Parking. With obviously landscape, trying to improve the aesthetics
And will that
meet
be,
the requirements.
and will that be expanded parking for Maggie's as well, like the corner?
It could
lots?
be on the short term, and there's improvement plans for that diagonal. It is nothing but a parking lot right now that's across the street from this and diagonal from Maggie's, but the idea is just to increase the parking to make that space more desirable for a future tenant as well.
Okay.
And traffic flow around the building right now.
If I could make this, if I can make one correction, do you have the plan, the demo plan in front of
I
you?
do.
There was a little mistake, it was online. We're actually gonna be demoing this part of the building here to enable flow.
Okay, so that is also part of the 1925 structure.
It's here.
All right, so.
Which is what's represented in those renderings.
So if I were to say, desired outcome, like what I'd like to see, I recognize that this 1925 shoe factory building is not particularly aesthetically pleasing, but we don't do aesthetics here. We're not the beauty committee, we're historic preservation. And I would consider this part back here also, if you're expanding your demo, that's also considered historical. This, I think, remains to be seen. It's not 1927, it's probably the 1930s. We have recommendations or requirements for demo that we ask that when you're demoing or before you demo, you record it. So just so we know what we lost, basically. And the demo requirements we have asked for great photos and measured drawings, although not like laser measured, but basic measurements.
That's been done.
And also then there's a list of historic maps that should be consulted, and they're available at the Historical Society or online. And you really need someone to pull this information together, the photos, the maps, the history, into a report. And it should be an assembled report, not just a digital report that you blast out to us and let us figure it out. Each picture should have a direction and a caption of what it's trying to show us, not a brick on the ground or a bucket on a wall, but, you know, this facade, that facade, that facade. And pulled into a regular report with a bibliography of the books that you consulted. And, you know, kind of like a high school term paper or something. It's got to be pulled together, title sheet, maybe a little intro on why you're asking for this demo. Mark's got all these requirements that are recently written up, page and a half. You know what I'm talking about. So it's possible for citizens to do it themselves or hire a firm to come in and do that recordation. We don't tell you how to do it. We just ask you to meet our requirements. So for my
portion that has been done. Okay.
well, then maybe it's just a matter of assembly.
Yeah.
We're looking at the historic maps that are out there.
Are you able to comment at all on the timeline in terms of, we've just been burned on a couple of demolition projects where certain outcomes were promised and they didn't happen, and they were promised to happen in 2 months and instead they took significantly longer than that. What's your sense of what the timeline is?
I will say with the demolition, there's a significant review that needs to take place from the county, specifically stormwater management. It's going to take us some time to get through that. That's probably going to be at least a year.
Oh, good. And you have time to do these little things.
Yeah, it's definitely not a project until, I mean, breaking ground in, 2024 at the earliest.
So from our perspective, having that documentation and having us being able to look at what you have, walk around on the street and say, that documentation matches what was submitted, or I can't tell what this is a picture of. Can you please caption it better? If you give us a chance to look over the draft, it will feel better before it's taken down, that you have at least to have it recorded.
Okay.
Is there anything else that I missed, guys?
Again, the recordation is important, especially if you're coming before the Historic District Commission asking for site improvement grants and tax credits, that they go hand in hand.
This is really a question for the city, but is there any kind of traffic study at that intersection? I mean, throwing in another, I don't know, what, 20 parking spots, if that's 20 more cars parked there going to the restaurant. It's a little bit of a dicey intersection. I have parked in that corner and felt a little
And
cautious about
it really goes to use, whatever they can convert to use to. But I think we would ask for some type of your traffic impact analysis. It is accessing onto, I think it's a state road, so those are want to see something with that as well as us. So I think it's not going to be a full traffic study, obviously, but I think we would be looking at that access into the site in that intersection.
To say I went looking around there. For all 25 years I've lived here, I've never looked at that park. It's just never made me look at it.
Right.
And drove on it, and then I realized I was in somebody's backyard, in the back of the, it's like very disorienting because it all looks alike. It's got one color paint.
I think the demolition that's would occur would actually improve the traffic and
it definitely should improve visibility.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's for me, it's unfortunate that these original pieces are being lost, and of course, I wouldn't be a good preservationist if I wasn't asking you to please consider some way of incorporating them, but were realists as well, as long as they're recorded.
Unfortunately, they are the closest part of the building to the street, so.
Well, that used to be a plus,
Right,
right?
right,
It's bring your horse and carriage right out.
right. Exactly.
All right, if there's no more input,
I'll just say that maybe a little bit unlike Chris, I have looked at this building multiple times and I think this is a great plan. It's a great draft. I love the aesthetic. I think it's a property that could use some improvement and I think it's exciting. So thanks for showing us.
Yeah, thank you.
all right, guys, well, we won't keep you anymore.
Thank you, no problem.
Okay. So we're now at the point where we usually go through historic district commissioners' comments on what kind of activity they've done in order to work with the city and historic district commission issues.
I don't think of any.
You were looking last Saturday.
Yeah,
That was a good thing.
that's a good thing. Good fun.
I've been just working on the National History Day, and that'll now go into snooze mode for a while. Celebrate America is talking about doing a history expo at Discovery Commons in the fall. Whether it be associated somehow with Fall Fest or independent, I don't know. They have asked our input in the past, and I'm hoping we have some sort of presence in some way for that event. Again, it would just be commissioners' times coming out on a weekend and being part of the public event. So it's just something to put on your radar. Other than that, I can't think of any other city business I've been on this month. Kevin,
Nothing, thank you.
do you have anything to report, Mark?
So from the past discussion about entrance signage to the historic district. So I have reached out to Public Works, actually quotes. I just don't know, trying to get a size and concept if some help from the HCC members, if there are examples that you might want to provide, so I can get some concept of size, what we want to see, if it's basic, if it's something you want some type of a background or some visual elements to it, and anything to provide as a concept. So we're going to try to start pricing those out and see what we can do for that.
Yeah. I know there's lots of very muted signs in Annapolis at their edge of their historic district. And, you know, I don't need something in LED lights. I would think something that just kind of brings people's awareness, really more for people who live here, you know, where the line is, it would be great. All right, can we be all looking for ideas of that? Send them to Mark for concept, and I'll definitely take big swag at getting you some sign examples.
Okay, great, I appreciate it.
My only comment on that is, again, just based on the feedback we were getting on the walking tour and just thinking about how people want to interact with history, I think that sometimes we put a little too much emphasis on trying to highlight notable events. You know, this is where Corbett's charge happened, this is where this famous person lived. And I think the public is equally just fascinated with, this is where the grocer lived, this is where, you know, anything that puts them in the mind of yesteryear. So I think that our signage could just be descriptive in that way. And, you know, I think that potentially there was a discussion at one point of partnering, Historic Society partnering with Magic to do some sort of AR or VR tour of downtown. And applying for some funds for that. So that's a discussion that could be rebooted. But, you know, less on like just trying to highlight big events and notable people, which is fun and good. But I think people just want to picture what the way it used to look 200, 250 years ago. And signage that helps us to that, you know, could be really.
And I guess I was thinking very modestly of just, here's the, you know, boundary, like.
Yeah,
You just stepped in. But yeah, more educational pieces would be great.
yeah, or that map that allows us to see the way it used to look.
All right, anything else, Mark?
I have nothing else.
I had fun making the brochures or redoing So because our quick turnaround and the printer only allowed for like 3 panels, I had to shave it down and we lost some of the history in the brochure. So that's kind of one of my projects, looking forward to how we can get that back to what it was, professionally done. And also, what else can we highlight? So I'm really excited. Keep diving in. It sounds like I really have to go get that book though. You said it was at the Historical Society.
I don't know exactly, but I've got 2 copies, so I'll let you guys start bidding on it. I honestly, one of them, I don't remember where I got it, and I think somebody gave me this as a prize for doing history for something. I'm not sure I actually ever purchased this, but I think it's at the Historical Society.
We have $1,500 sitting there that we can certainly purchase some books for the HDP members.
Yes. that-
Or not.
I think that's great. Oh, Bob Porterfield, he's the guy, that building next to the library was his office for photography for years next to the old firehouse.
That's a beautiful building.
And actually was the rectory for St. John's.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
that is such a cool building too.
Is that Rick Davis's building now?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it,
But that idea of buying books, that's a phenomenal idea. Like, even if we had a stack to give away at some of our events, people would love that. And, we could give it away as a prize for, ready for this? Like, we could say, come to our next meeting and we'll give you a book or something like that. I'm all about the prize.
Okay, I like that. All right, well, I'm glad to have introduced something new to you guys. I thought I was being cheesy bringing this. I
I haven't seen that one.
There's another one that's just more of a small pamphlet, and it was remembrances of Mary Shalman. And it was written in 1939 or so. And the name of it is 200 years ago. And she wrote her remembrances from when she was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then they took it for the centennial and reprinted it. And it's only like 3-4 books, but to read about where people lived along Main Street and then to match it up with the addresses today is really a lot of fun. That's also good.
Do you know, are those photos all in the Historical Society archives?
I don't know. This one is, so they credit some of them.
I just keep thinking, like, how cool would it be to give a copy of that book to every Main Street business? And what could that inspire? And maybe if it's cost prohibitive, if there was a digital version of it that could be shared.
Or if a digital version could be shared on our website.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I was under the
as you
impression
know,
it was-
we own the rights for the book that talks about Westminster. What's his name? The one that has all the pictures.
the building of Westminster.
Are there
Well,
a
we
lot-
paid for that.
Are there
So it's
pictures?
So I would assume that could be bought too.
We paid for the original research. That's how we own the rights to it. This
So we
one,
can
I,
talk about that, and what we could do.
but apparently I actually did buy it, because here's the receipt. John's Early Light I bought, and Westminster, I bought Porterfield. So $34 book.
But if we own the rights to that other book,
It's on our website. It's already there.
We have CDs.
well, that's the problem.
It's on the.
I have a
it's on the website.
DVD of that book, but I don't even have a computer that plays DVD anymore. It's obsolete technology at this point. So is it available? Is it PDF?
It's online, yes.
Someone
We should talk about doing more with that.
should.
Can I comment on something?
Sure.
This is going way back in my brain. It was a meeting in Hagerstown and it was all of the main streets together. And so they have trails out there in Western Maryland and their businesses were like all a part of a program where they were trail certified. So the business itself was like able to speak about, this is how many miles it is. This is where it leads to. These are resting points. Like how cool to transition that into something with history, to be historically certified business. And then, the owner could talk about anything, just some goals.
I would love
to think
that.
about. And then, you know, it involves like branding, you have a sticker on the business and.
QR code, look up our history.
But to have people actually talking about it and, you know, this is where you can go to experience it, so.
All right, then there's one last thing in public comments. Do you have anything?
I actually do. I have a question about the newly named Historic Westminster Society at the cemetery. I'm not sure if this is a place to speak about it or not, but a lot of people on Facebook were upset about not being notified of it and their items on the loved ones' graves just being thrown away. I had a few questions about if there was a timeline. A lot of people couldn't get out there. They didn't know about it until that post. And along with what about family members who have flat stone tops, what we're supposed to do to decorate to honor for them.
So the Westminster Cemetery is a private nonprofit. It's within the city limits. It's also within the historic district, but they operate like any other private organization with a set of trustees. And there was a list of folks who were contacted. A mailing went out of over 325 folks of addresses that were had, and I'm only speaking about this because I'm the chair of that committee. So all the new rules were sent out to everybody we had addresses for. Of course, I've gotten at least 20 returns, and I'm assuming those are lot holders that are now in their lots. So, you know,
It's hard for that.
we can't get a hold of absolutely everybody.
Exactly.
But we got a hold of the lot holders that we had addresses for. And soon we'll be putting up signs, but we wanted lot holders to have an opportunity to come and remove their things. No cleanup has begun.
I was just there to get all of this stuff for us. I just wanted to get some clarification on that and like what we were supposed to do. My grandmother has a flat top and my great grandmother was actually a caretaker of the cemetery for over 20 years. So it's really, really important to me that I'm able to decorate my grandmother and my great grandmother's grave, even though my grandmother doesn't have any built-in base or anything.
So for decorations, we have limited it to things that are not permanent, like those solar lights that have been out there for years and the shepherd's crooks with nothing on them. We've limited it to natural flowers, not artificial flowers. And there are some stones that already have vases in them or top clips, and none of that's going to be touched. But there's just so much plastic floating around that gets chopped up by the lawnmowers. And we're just trying to avoid that constant mulching of plastic into the, you know, grounds, because guess who gets to go and pick it all up?
I'm an environmental study major, so I understand.
Oh, good, good, good.
In that case, for the flat tops, are we allowed to just kind of like, as long as it doesn't touch the ground and they will not be touched?
Yeah, as long as the flowers are natural, they can be mulched. But I mean, essentially, they all blow off anyway. And as long as they can be mulched, as long as it's natural materials, I don't think there'll be any problem.
Okay.
You know, and the last thing is there's a safety issue out there in that people were putting vases with porcelain, glass, pebbles, and about 40 hours a week is just hand trimming. I know there's an image of like the mowers hitting the stones, but really the mower's only out there 6 hours a week. It's the hand trimming that has to happen when you have to pay for 40 hours a week of hand trimming. It's beyond, we can't, it's not sustainable.
It's a lot.
And the safety issue is that you're hitting the pebbles and the crew's getting hurt. They're getting shards of glass. So those porcelain bells, all the statuary, all that stuff is a safety issue. So that's why we're asking people, please come get your stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as possible. Then we'll try and get some volunteer crews in for all this stuff.
I was gonna say, with the signs, when that goes up, could we put like a volunteer or something to help kind of go in and, you know, clean up the cemetery? Could we do something like that to incorporate, you know, the fact that it feels like the cemetery board actually does care? It's just a lot.
Yeah, it's, I realize that. And, you know, maybe we should organize a volunteer day where anybody on Facebook can come and help us clean up
I think a lot of
Christmas
people would
trash.
love that.
You know,
honestly.
come get the Christmas trash. That would be great.
Mhm.
But we thought we'd start with the lot holders first.
Yeah.
And then give them a chance to
Yeah.
kind of get adjusted before the signs just go up. The signs are sort of cold, you know.
I agree, and like, I think some of them, obviously, there's a lot of people in that cemetery, so a lot of people were missed, so like, we've been at the same household, my grandmother ended up, getting that stone before she passed, and we didn't even get a letter. So it's in the same kind of like, a lot of people were upset that they weren't notified of it a better way, but it is hard to do, so.
Your address, because I want it on my fundraising letter. That's exactly why I want your address, you know? So,
Could I comment just for the record though, to your first question, we had nothing to do with that here. This is, you just happen to have a happy accident that Chris is here who's on a boat, but
yeah,
until you came, I had no idea. This is all news to me, so
A lot of people don't
interesting,
know
I was curious, but we had no
it's
purview
just the
on that.
accident of my name on both
Yeah.
organizations. So,
Is there
I can
anything
talk
that
afterwards.
isn't historic?
Well, it doesn't fall under the purview of the city of Westminster government, so it is its own private property owner and run independently. So we have no control or say, if they want to develop the site, then we can start looking at that, but it's operating as is. It's just an entity that we are not part of. The Historic District Commission is it's a committee of the mayor and common council. And they're appointed people by the mayor and common council, but they have no authority over that property. It just is privately owned.
I'm involved with the Historical Society and you can ask them about the cemetery, and they don't know, you know, I bop around to a lot of places, I try really hard to involve myself with a lot of people.
I would actually love to talk to you after.
Let's do it. All right, well, if there's no more actual business for you poor guys who have to sit here and listen to me blather about fun stuff, then I guess we'll go to adjournment. What do you say, guys?
Sounds
Agreed?
good. So